beginning of June, it'll be out.
Is it going to be out? How is it going to be out? Amazon?
Yeah, it's
Kindle?
coming out on Amazon. Yeah.
So are they doing it for you or you're doing it?
Uh, they're doing it. They're doing it and they're marketing it.
Hi, everyone.
We're talking.
We're talking and we're not like chipper because our topic is not chippery, but
Yeah.
maybe it is. Maybe it's funny in some ways. I don't know.
Yeah. We're talking about grief and how I'm trying to publish my book and my book is on grief and it's supposed to be coming out mid-June or so. So soon. Um but yeah, our topic today is we're talking about grief and that it doesn't just change you, just doesn't just change your life, it changes you personally. It's such a very uh intense process, I should say. Mhm. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
both
so
experienced a lot of loss.
this could be a heavy episode. So if you are having the bandwidth to talk about heavy things, this is your episode. And if you're not, then maybe it's not, but we are going to go there. So, I remember when my dad died and it was sudden and Lisa came to the funeral with the baby. Oh my God, that was so beautiful. And, I don't think I started grief. I think I was in shock for about a year. I don't think I was in the grief for like a year.
Mhm.
I think there were moments of sadness and disbelief, but the permanence of death didn't hit me until a year later. The first year I was still picking up my phone to call him.
Yeah.
I was still thinking he was there and I could just like he just was not available. And my dad died in 2006, so I just realized it's been 20 years.
20 years, yeah. It's just hard to believe it's been that long.
20 years of all the things that he missed, right?
Yeah, all the
And
secondary losses,
and
yeah.
again, that's what I love about working with people and friends and just talking about grief is that like it's one of those things where you think you have it figured out. I
Mhm.
remember at 18 years, I was like, wow, I didn't think about him every day.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's going to be
Mhm.
fine. But my kids are 12. And so now they're in this like wonderful part of life where they're really like going places. They can figure things out and they can learn, they can go to places like silly places like my dad used to take us to like look for like a part of a car at like the dump. Like now it's all expensive, but back then
Mhm.
they had this place where all these cars were, and you would just like walk up and down and find the car that you needed and the piece. Like it's like this like
Mhm.
car museum, like archaic place. Anyway, like that would have been such a fun thing for my kids to go to, and my dad took
Yeah.
me to that.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah.
he's gone, and also too, he had been gone for 8 years by the time my kids were born, but like, he would have sat in the backyard. I'm like, I wish I had someone who could sit here and just watch my kids, not like they don't have to do laundry or just eyes on them. That's a
Mhm.
human, that loves them like I love them. And that would have been my dad. And he would have sat there for 15 hours straight. I
Mhm.
swear he would have done that. But he never got to do that. And they didn't have that person that did that, that
Yeah.
loved them for no reason whatsoever, just other than them being his grandkids. So grief is just like I think it really does hit you different. And it's not that it doesn't go away, because it does. It changes, but then it just slaps you in the face, right?
Yeah. It changes how you move through the world. Like my worldview is forever shifted from all the loss that I've experienced. Um, I am so aware of time. I am so aware of that when I say goodbye. When I say goodbye to my kids every time I tell them I love them, because I
Mhm.
know that death will come and snatch you. I've
I'm
seen it, I've
so
experienced it too many times.
I'm so aware of time that I will look at my kid's face and I will think of the day it is, and I'm like I will think like, "Oh, this is April of their 12th year. This is what they look like."
Mhm.
I'm just really aware, like you just named
Capturing
it.
it.
I'm
Mhm.
really aware of time. I'm really
Mhm.
aware of how time puts things into perspective, how it
Mhm.
doesn't a lot of things don't matter, um, that
Like,
we really
your
think are
priorities your priorities, right, shift. Like, because for me, my first I shouldn't say it's my first loss, because really I lost some grandfathers that were really important to me. Um, but when my dad died, it was like I it's so hard to explain that, but like my safety bubble in the world was gone. Like it was all of a sudden like the world's not safe. And anything could just happen at any time. Like horrible things just come in and happen. And I understand people experience that younger than I did. But it was such a jolting thought that it's like everything I saw and experienced was different in life. And then having, I experienced multiple losses like back to back to back.
I
And it
I
was
think
just
it's di yeah, I think it's
weight.
different when it's a primary caregiver. I think that when
I
it's
do
your
too.
mom or your dad, it's different. I remember, and even if you had a bad relationship with your mom and a bad relationship with your dad, and even if your mom and dad made mistakes or your mom and dad were perfect, like, it's just different
Mhm.
because I've watched 35 years of families in recovery, 37 years of families in recovery. So I've seen generational loss,
Mhm.
generational impact. And
Mhm.
you don't know what you don't know. You
True.
don't know at 16 that you're gonna need your dad at 26 and 36 and 46
Yeah.
and 56. You don't know that. You think they're being an asshole or excuse me, you too, but you think that they're like, that they're like making the wrong choices for you or whatever it is, whatever it is. I mean, my mom's a good example, and I don't think she would mind that I share, but like my mom struggled with bipolar disorder and was not attentive for a long time.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
now at 80, my kids run in the front door from the school bus and run right into her bedroom and look for her, right? And so how was I supposed to know at 21, 31,
Yeah.
41, 51 like, that I would need her now, and it's not that I need her, right? I could function without her, I could figure out
Mhm.
but my kids get to have her, and,
Mhm.
I know your dad had a good relationship with your kids as well,
Mhm.
and your dad was a big I really felt even though my dad wasn't, quote, unquote, "there for me" during the time right when he passed, I was functioning, right? I had paid my bills, and I lived on my own, but I felt like, I felt like the visual for me was like an oak tree, like a tr not an oak tree, but like those big trees, like in the sequoias, like one of them was just
Uh-huh.
chopped down and gone, and I was just walking around with 1 foot, hopping with 1 foot, because I joked about it with clients this week. I said, "My dad would have taken a bullet for me. My dad would, without a question, would have jumped in front of an armed guy and taken a bullet." And I'm like, "My husband would probably push me out of the way." Right?
So do you feel less protected because he's
Oh, yeah. I feel
not
like
there,
when
he's more exposed?
I
Yeah.
feel like when my dad passed away, um and
Yeah.
PS, I'm glad that my husband would push me out of the way because, like, my kids need somebody. So if I'm gonna go or he's gonna go, the other one's gotta be there, right? So it's not like I'm comparing the 2, but I did feel like when my dad was gone, that the unconditional love was gone
Yeah.
because he was a fan.
Yeah.
Even with my dad.
Yeah.
He was definitely a fan. He didn't have the capacity to do a bunch of things for me per se, but he was a fan. And when he was gone, I knew that that was gone. And I knew that everyone else was they liked me. I mean, they love me, people love me,
Mhm.
but it's not the same. I do when I work with adolescents, I tell them like these 2 people are there for you 100%,
Mhm.
and it might be 100% of 20%, but it's a lot.
And I do wanna say that, like, grief isn't just about death loss. I know I write about that in my book because a lot of people associate grief with death loss, but there's also, like, relationships ending. That is
Mhm.
a death, except for it's not a death because you get to keep seeing them. So it's almost worse because it's like you don't even get closure of things. I mean, heartbreak is horrific and you feel like you're dying just like in grief. Like it you go through all the same processes of grief when we look at there's so many different grief theories and things like that, but like the brain is still functioning with that same pathway it's going to of trying to reach towards the person that's no longer there, whether it's death or it's a relationship ending.
Well, there's a lot of I think that you're right. I think that I mean, I went right to my dad just because that's, like,
Yeah, of
the big one
course.
for me,
Me too.
but
Yeah.
there's a lot of types of grief, when
Yeah.
going through infertility is grief, you know,
Yes. Absolutely.
getting a diagnosis for your children, that's a big one, is grief,
Absolutely. Yes.
losing a family member is grief, COVID, when every single child that was in school, the day after it was March 15th, they shut schools down. That entire year went away for them, grief, and no one talks about it. I talk
Oh,
about it.
like my son was graduating from high school. Like
Over
people lost, yes, or that was their,
the
their senior year. It's like you're
the
not
other
getting.
Yeah, the other thing that about that was I was working in the schools and I had siblings of kids that had spent their whole life going to their siblings' football games or soccer games or baseball games, right? So
Mhm.
their sibling was gonna be going to play in college or play their senior year to get into college. That went away.
That
And
one, that's
those kids,
exactly
the
what I was gonna
siblings
say.
were
Yeah.
grieving because
Yeah.
the siblings had spent their whole childhood going to sacrificing their weekends to go to their siblings' game, and then that all went away. There was no first year of college, there was no, homecoming football game, there was no all of the things, and I think that calling it out is probably a good thing when there's grief.
Yeah. Acknowledging it. Yeah.
I have
Well, that's
clients.
why it frustrates me about heartbreak because when people break up, others' responses are, like, very minimal they minimize it, like, "Oh," and it's like but, like, if you look at any of I mean, they do all these testing on, like, the biology, what's going on, and, like, the body is, like, suffering. It's like pain, like physical pain. Heartbreak, they looked at it and they did testing on it. I thought it was so fascinating to me because 'cause I'm
And
like,
why though?
"Yes."
Why what? Let's talk about that. Why don't we why do we run from other people's grief? Why can't we sit in the discomfort and
Mhm.
be quiet? I remember I was probably 25, maybe 25, maybe 23 or 4. I don't know, somewhere around there. And a friend in his presence church, we went to church, who had lost her son, and her son was 3 years old. The young couple, and he had meningitis and he died. It was very, 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 very sad. It was very sad. And I'm one of those people that recognizes that people run from grief. So I go in
Yeah.
and fill the gap. I do. I show up. So I remember being at her house and people brought food and then they left, right? And some people stayed and some people prayed. Um, and she started wailing, crying in the bedroom, but like not she wasn't hiding it from anyone. She wasn't, like, in her room shutting the door wanting people to leave, but a lot of people left and a lot of people were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself,
Mhm.
"I don't have to do anything." I remember somebody said to her about God, and she responded in a not positive way,
Yeah.
but it was
That's
positive. It
right.
was where
Yeah.
she was, but it's
Yeah.
like we don't she doesn't when we're in our grief, we don't need to hear anything. Sometimes we just need you to be there and let us process, And so I remember sitting there and thinking, I just knew I didn't have to do anything. I just have to be a witness. I
I
just
think
have to
that's because
be there.
you've gone through a lot of hard things and loss. I think a lot of people don't, they don't know what to do. They don't know, and then they go to the person in grief and they are like, "Let me know what you need," and you're like, "I don't even know what I need." It's, and honestly, I mean, it's a self-discovery when you're in it, but it is that I also experience that, like, people don't know what to do, and they're so uncomfortable. You think I'm comfortable? Like, I
Yeah,
am falling apart, like, my whole world is shattered, like, you're
that's my
more
point.
vulnerable, yeah, than you've ever been, and, it
Cheryl's
and
Cheryl
transformations happening within you, and there's nothing you could do about it.
Cheryl Salem lost her daughter and, and her husband as well, Cheryl and Harry, and their daughter, I think she was 5. Anyways, she said, which was so profound and I never forgot it. She said that, and they preach about this and they speak about it, so it's not a secret. But she said that it wasn't just losing her daughter, which was enough. That's definitely more than enough of loss, right? She said we lost all our friends too because people stopped calling and people stopped
Absolutely
coming
true.
and people stopped treating us like, because they were uncomfortable. And I feel like
Mhm.
I hear what you're saying about people don't know and so they like leave or whatever, but I think that's an excuse. I think, like, you really let me tell you, if you're one of those people who doesn't know what to do, just be there and tolerate your own discomfort
Yes.
to be a witness for somebody else, because I heard somebody else speak about this, um, and he said, "I will never forget that one friend that came to my door." He goes, "I" he said something like, "I'll just never forget it. You remember the people that show up for you."
Yes.
Not that we should do it to be remembered, but the point is that's how few number of people it is.
Yeah, I had literally a high school friend. I knew her since before high school, Stephanie, and, she wasn't even living in this area. She came in like a storm. I mean, she came in, she was bringing coffee, she was dropping off bottles of wine, she was organizing a food thing. Like, I hadn't even talked to her in, like, I don't know how long, but when she heard, it was like she knew grief and she knew what to do and she stepped in. Other friends had no idea what to do, but they just showed up. Everyone just showed up to my house, and I just remember, I mean, I wrote about this again in my book about just being in my closet, and it was like a contained space that if I fell apart, which I was constantly falling apart, that I was gonna it could hold me. I don't know even know how to explain that, but and friends that would come and meet me in my closet.
I know what you're talking about because I've gone through stages of grief for different reasons, and I don't like being in big rooms, and by big rooms, I mean,
Yeah,
like, the living room. Like, I need to be in the bedroom, I need it to
yeah.
be dim, I need
Oh,
it to
yeah.
be closed or smaller. Our rooms are kinda small, so it's not hard to be in a small room, but, um, yeah, I sometimes I can't be in, or I need to kinda be in control of my environment where I don't think anyone can barge in and out.
Mhm.
So maybe that's why I like to be in the room, but, it's 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 definitely a process.
Yeah. I do wanna touch on something before we end, about this unexpected thing that I experienced in grief, and I think others can relate to, is that how you feel joy, um, is so different after experiencing great loss and sadness. It's almost like the harder the pain or more difficult the pain, the sweeter the joy is what I feel like. That as I move through healing and I would have, you have these little seconds of moments where I just remember sitting on the couch and just couldn't set up Christmas. Just was like, and I love Christmas. And I was just sitting there just depressed and watching my kids come together and pull
Mhm,
out all the ornaments. And I'm just watching them decorate. And like the joy I felt amongst the pain was like
mhm.
this deep place. And I think that that is a gem in the horrors of grief is you ap you see and appreciate things so much deeper and richer, and you really feel it, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, you know, it reshapes you. It breaks you down to places that I don't even know that those pieces can come back together.
Yeah, I'm quiet just because I'm emotional as well, and I
Yeah.
know your kids, and you are so traditional, and you do have your own personal traditions that you brought to them, and so it's just beautiful that they saw that and remember that, and then they can just
Mhm.
carry on when you can't yourself.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful, and I think that that's probably we're kind of out of time. We will do another part to this, but I will say that I think that's the other reason why grief can be so challenging for moms. Because as you were talking about your grief, I'm thinking about my own grief for my son with his autism. And something that special needs moms worry about is how their kids are going to be taken care of or supported when they're gone. Um, and so I think about that and I think, like, it really is important to acknowledge that grief is happening and that grief needs to be processed because I
Mhm.
think that with exceptional diagnosis like um, childhood leukemia or childhood cancer or diabetes or autism, you know, you have to do a process. We still need to go
Yeah.
on. We
Yeah.
also have to present for our kids and we have to go through our grief. And so I love you touching on and you've shared with me so many times examples of how your kids were there with you while you were grieving. And so I think that's something that moms and caregivers and family members of people that have are going through grief need to hear that, we acknowledge you're going to be going through this grief and you still have to be
Yeah.
present for your families.
Yeah.
And
And
that
it and the breakthrough that happens in your own families, like, we wanna sometimes we wanna hide those things from our kids. We think, "Oh, it's too much." I didn't ask them to take care of me in it, but I did let them see me break. I did let them see me fall apart, and they needed to see that at some level, that it's okay for them to cry and to grieve and to not be okay. It's okay for them to be
and
vulnerable.
it's okay for us to be there for each other. It's okay for your kids to be there for you and help you. Like it's not imposing on them that they need to do something that helps you. It isn't.
Yeah, I guess I'm just sensitive to, like, them emotionally taking care of me because I know that that can be very unhealthy, but I think that yes, of course, like,
But I
them
don't I
helping
don't
with this
I
or
don't
that
I
was, like,
don't
a
think that
huge
I
thing,
think it's unhealthy when it's like over a long period of time, obviously like a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old. But I think when older children show up for you, it's okay. It's okay for them to be there for you. So,
Yeah,
because I know we are in it together, whether we want it to be
mhm,
that way or not, right?
mhm, mhm,
So, we
yeah,
use the analogy of like an elevator, like we're in the elevator. We didn't want the elevator to get stuck, but it did, and whoever's in there is in there, and we have to work with what we've got, right? So,
yeah,
thanks
yeah,
thanks so much for the topic. Lisa does have a book. It is on grief. It is coming out in June. It is going to be available on a lot of different platforms. I think Amazon is one of them. I don't know if it's on Barnes and Noble yet, but it is going to be available to everyone. So I'm doing a little commercial for her. It's a grief book. I've heard her go through the process of writing it, and I can't wait. I've looked at little sections of it, but I look forward to the final outcome. And
yeah,
yeah, so more to come.
more
Thank
to
you, everyone.